Hello and welcome to another session of Living Life with
VIS and
Mona.
Mona.
Absolutely. This week it flowed more easily.
Yeah,
And in this session, we inspire couples to live an abundant and magical life.
we share our journeys so that others can learn and empower couples with insights, tools, skills along their journey.
Yeah. So we empower couples with
So,
our insights, our tools and learnings and skills, whatever it is that we can offer you to journey this life together. I guess that's what it is because this was saying that we were doing something else too, and somebody else was empowering the couples. But I
yeah.
guess sometimes we need to remind ourselves what it is we actually show up for every week.
So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Absolutely. Was your phone binging right now?
Yeah, so I'm trying to see. It's reminding me that we're going live.
Absolutely.
Or
But maybe we need to
somebody is
get the bing.
responding.
Oh, is somebody joining
Oh, no,
us?
it's a reminder that we're going live. That's what it is.
This is why I don't like notifications on my
That's
phone.
Facebook. Huh? That's
Yeah.
Facebook.
No, but that's why I don't do, I'm not sure about you, but I don't do notifications on my phone where it pops up. And I'll speak about that next week, perhaps, because it's going to be a topic for discussion on another platform first. When these things constantly pop up either on your laptop or your phone. But like I said, I'm going to leave that for next week. So, Viz, what did you do this past weekend?
It was certainly a fun weekend and all revolved around beautiful food.
And beautiful
People,
people.
more importantly, beautiful people. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's two beautiful experiences we had on Saturday. We went cheese tasting. So for others would have been cheese and wine tasting, but we did the cheese tasting, and boy oh boy, was that beautiful cheeses and some yummy baked goods that I don't know, we just left there in awe of the yummy food.
So, before Viz goes a bit more into any of those
Good idea.
details, remember it's a Thursday. So, what do you receive on Thursday? You receive some goodness and some frequencies of prosperity. So, I'm sharing with you my prosperity spray, and I'm misting it for all of us so that we all get to experience whatever prosperity it is that we want to call into our lives. And yes, whatever it is, hold on to that dream because it's all about divine timing. And we'll speak about that on another call as well. So, this some prosperity spray for you, some prosperity spray for me, and prosperity spray for
For
all of
everyone.
you.
And the laptop too.
Yeah, and the laptop gets everything. So it's going to be sticky just now. But there we go. Some goodness coming your way, some love and flow to you and wherever it's required in the world right now. Because we know that there's many places that are very, very challenged right now. So we're sending all that love that way. And yes, we bring some lightness into our conversations. We bring some joy into it because the more we can be in that space, even though it can be traumatizing for others wherever they are in the world, we helped to elevate and lift their spirits just by bringing that frequency into the space. So it's not that we're being insensitive to what's going on around the world. We just want to lighten the spirit around the world.
Yeah, the thing is, what you focus on grows.
Yeah.
So if we can focus on sending positive energy out to the world by being positive ourselves, doesn't mean that we're ignoring what's going on around
Yes.
us, you know.
Yeah.
But dwelling on it and almost like fearing for people in other parts of the world doesn't help them.
It doesn't,
help them,
exactly. It
yeah.
actually, and there's so much of material on this. There's so much of material on this and what you can do. So a lot of people around the world, they're praying, but a lot of people are praying fearfully rather than praying from a place of bringing light into this space. Because there's two ways that we can pray. And there again, that's a conversation for another day. But just so that people understand, we can either pray fearfully and we exacerbate the negative situation, or we can pray powerfully and we can bring light and speedy resolution to something. So there's two ways to be in service to the world.
Right.
And I love what you say, was because our high frequency, and if you ever want to understand how we impact others, please read Dr. David Hawkins' Power of Consciousness, Power versus Force. It deals with the levels of consciousness and how we as an individual can impact and change the world. And imagine all of us being in a high vibrational frequency. It is as simple as that. We just have to start believing it and practicing it. It's as simple as that.
So after that misting and introduction from Mona, let's get back to the story of what we did this weekend.
Yeah.
So I was talking about the cheese tasting. So we went to a deli called Global Cheese Company, which is not too far from where we live. And we were invited to this cheese tasting, and we had so many different cheeses. And I think we know most of the cheeses, but
yes,
it was beautiful to see how many locally made cheeses of those varieties are now produced in our own country. So that's fabulous.
And what I loved was the variety of goat's milk cheeses. Because most of the time, if you go around, you get the chevron, right? The chevron, the cream cheese in a little rolled up, whether it's herbs or pepper or whatever. I mean, most of the time, that's what I've encountered at any of these cheese and wine events. But this time, there was goat's milk Gouda, or for those of you up in Europe, Gouda, or even in the US, I believe there's different pronunciation, but we say Gouda. There was cheddar. There was different types of cheddar. So for me, I think there were two others, but I can't remember what types they were. But it was such an experience because it wasn't the same old things.
One was Kwaito.
Yes, one was Kwaito.
Yeah, so Kwaito is local music. For those who haven't heard the word Kwaito before. So there's one made in Kwaito. I think it had some herbs in it.
Yes, it did have some herbs. So that was the type of goat's milk cheese, which was, as I said, I know there was another one as well, but I couldn't remember.
So the natural.
Yes, all the natural ones. So it was natural cheddar. And I guess that was just it. It was a different experience.
Yeah, and then, the friend that invited us, she makes Greek pastries. So using some of these cheeses, she made two delectable dishes that we tried. And
tell us what was the two delectable dishes. Let's see if you remember, because Wiz likes eating. Let's see if he remembers and he can share with you what he ate.
So one was a ricotta bake.
No, it was not a ricotta bake. It was a baked ricotta.
Okay, so
it makes a big difference.
So, it's interesting we talk about semantics, but
no, it is.
Right. No, I'm saying I was reading something on semantics today, but you're quite right. It makes a huge difference.
If you talk about a baked ricotta versus a baked, ricotta bake, it's two different things.
Baked ricotta.
Yes.
So it's a ricotta cheese with olive oil on it, dusted in herbs and spices and lots of pepper,
olives,
and baked.
Yeah.
And wow, that was just beautiful, and especially since we had it steaming hot.
Yes, it just came out of the oven.
The flavors and the aromas and everything coming out of that.
So maybe we should just explain what's a ricotta bake versus a baked ricotta. Like Wiz was saying, if some people will think it's semantics because that's what he thought. But it wasn't, it's not semantics. A baked ricotta means it's the ricotta cheese on its own that may be dusted with spices and it's baked as it is. A ricotta bake could be, ricotta cheese mixed with some eggs and milk and then put into, it could be put over potatoes. It could be put into a crust. It could be put, in phyllo pastry. So there's so many different things. That's a ricotta bake. So, and this is where it can come, leading on to our topic, where we can have responding and reaction, because I think it's a nice segue into having the discussion on the topic for today.
Correct.
Because think about it, Wes. It's so apt that you decided to call it again a ricotta bake when we had the discussion on the weekend. What's the difference? So did you see yourself on the weekend wanting to become a little bit defensive? Because remember, this is known as the foodie. So he sometimes doesn't like being told or shall we say, corrected because he prides himself on his, shall we say, his culinary knowledge.
Well, I don't pride myself on my culinary knowledge. It's about how I review food. So it doesn't mean I have all that
No, I'm
knowledge
talking
in the
about
world.
me sharing with
Yeah,
you. Yes,
for sure.
But even
no,
though,
I guess it's talking about responding and reacting, more me reacting to being wrong.
and that's my point.
So
but this is where we're getting
so it's not
to.
me being wrong, not about you being right.
This is where we're getting to, right? So, how would you say you received it on the weekend? Were you sort of openly receptive to the correction, or would you say you reacted a bit at first?
I reacted to it. For
Right.
sure, I reacted to it, as opposed to responding to you today.
Yeah.
and saying,
So we're going to still get to like why people react,
Yeah.
right? Exactly, because it was a first. Now think about this. It's such a simple thing because Vis was saying a ricotta bake when I can't remember what he was doing. And I corrected him to say, no, that's not a ricotta bake. It's a baked ricotta. Because even the, the friend who invited us, Anne, when she brought it out, she said, oh, this is a baked ricotta, right? So what do you think was happening there? Because like I said, sometimes we can get in the way of our own understanding. What do you think was behind it? Because here was Mona reminding you what it was versus your own interpretation of it.
So it's interesting because this whole thing about responding versus reacting comes actually from when we were in the Serengeti. Did you know that? I mean, the whole fight and flight thing.
Yes.
So react and respond.
Explain to people, because Serengeti could be Serengeti Estates, that's down here in Johannesburg. Serengeti could be out there in the actual Serengeti. You mean the wild?
So you explained this very well. I'm going to let you explain it. The whole thing about when we just became Homo sapiens, and the whole thing about survival. The whole thing about survival, the amygdala versus the executive brain. So maybe there's a good introduction because that is exactly what drives.
Exactly. Reaction versus responding. So just to give you another, just like it's a Thursday, we're here to chill. So I'm going to use the simplest way to explain it. When we're responding, when we're reacting, because remember, we have evolved. It doesn't matter however you want to see how we came to be on this planet. We're not having that discussion. But we've evolved right from the origins of wherever you think we came. Now, in those days when Vis spoke about the Serengeti, first I thought he was talking about Serengeti Estates down the road. I'm just kidding. We were in the wild. It doesn't matter where in the world we originated from. There we know of the cavemen. And those days, it was all about you were in survival mode. So our brains were primitive. Our brains have evolved over the years. And what happened was, before we understood we have consciousness, before we understood we had the executive brain, we were constantly in the space of survival. And where do you think that came from? Our primitive brain, which is the amygdala, and that is at the back of our head. And the fight or flight response came from that because there was constant high alert. So it's almost like, oh, I'm being attacked. What happens? I must either fight or I must flee. Now, in this modern day and age, what happens is that if we think we're being attacked, when someone in a well-established area at a cheese and wine festival is saying to us, oh, by the way, it's not a ricotta bake, it's a baked ricotta. We have been so programmed over the generations of our ancestors from primitive times to react. It's like, oh, I'm at risk now, right? So you want to take it from there.
So I'm being attacked, so I must react now.
I must defend myself, right?
So I guess that's how it, transpired. And then, interesting enough, because you see, my response today was different to the reaction on Saturday.
On Saturday, yeah.
Because I've been doing some research, and the thing is, one way of changing that reaction to a response is filing it differently in your executive brain.
Yes.
So putting the different parts, it was Mona says it's a baked ricotta as opposed to a ricotta bake. She's just correcting what it's called, and just understand that it's a correction and that she's not attacking you. She's not trying to make you wrong or anything like that. And all you can do is then respond. And that's why I respond said, okay, some people may think it's semantics, but you're quite right that it's two very different dishes in the right sense of the word.
Exactly, especially if we're talking about dishes. So where do you think that came from? Because obviously when we're reacting, because now we're here in modern day, right? We're not in the wild, we're not in a survival situation. Where do you think this reaction to when you're being corrected, it's like what happens that unconsciously, because this is what's happening, unconsciously we're reacting instead of responding?
It comes from conditioning. The whole topic of last week of conditioning. You saw it as a child, maybe between mum and dad, and I did see it. And then you learned that, a woman shouldn't tell you what to do. A woman shouldn't.
This is a good one.
A woman shouldn't try and make you wrong or tell you what's right. Those are things. Those are social conditioning that we've evolved over time, and it's about understanding that it's just conditioning, and that doesn't mean it's right.
So this is a powerful conversation to be having here, especially when we are seen as men and women. And currently, if you know my workshop and my whole service offering going forward is focusing on the sacred feminine and understanding it deeper, getting men and women, but mostly women right now, to understand how we have been showing up in the world because of these stigmas as well. So the fact that you say, when we're talking about like women shouldn't tell me what to do, and just think about it, if you go back to Saturday and think about how many misunderstandings occur in relationships, in your romantic relationship with your spouse, because there's a misunderstanding of what's being communicated. I mean, we weren't fighting on that day, because many people think that misunderstandings or the reactions only occur when people are fighting. This was a normal conversation, and I wasn't screaming or behaving badly in some way, for someone to suddenly go into reaction, to go jump from executive brain into primitive brain, because literally that's what happens, right? It's like, just to give you an indication, the executive brain, normally you'll find people are holding their head, because when they kind of stuck, they actually wanting to massage the front of the head. It's a good thing, because that's your prefrontal cortex. So if you want to understand it easily, it's like, my executive brain is in front and my primitive brain is behind me, because that's what keeps us stuck in the past. So just look at, this is the wizard and this is the lizard. We learned that many years ago from our teacher, Dr. John D. Martini. So what do you think was happening? Because there we were in a relaxed environment. We were around friendly people. We were around beautiful food. We were having a wonderful time. And there's a reason why I'm saying all these things and stressing on these points. We were having a lovely time. What happened that would go? And it's like, because now we are current day, we're here on the weekend in 2022. What do you think is happening in your mind at that time? Because it's one thing is learned behavior. What's happening in your mind?
So
what was happening in your mind?
Well, I guess firstly, unexpected that I'm being corrected on something. And secondly is, as I said, if you feel like, you're being attacked because you've been corrected now, and that's obviously all conditioning. And obviously I had the awareness now that, am I behaving this way when Mona says something? And it's not because like, I should have better or anything like that. It's just the fact that you've been corrected about something. Maybe I should put my defenses up. And as a result, you react. As Mona said, we didn't fight about
it's
this.
Not about there was exactly.
It was just I chose to react rather than respond and think, oh, you're right. Because the big difference between
Yes.
the potato bake, the ricotta bake, the ricotta
And the
bake,
baked
and the baked
ricotta.
ricotta.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But just think about
it's
this.
just about being aware. And you know what it is, and we'll come to just now when you talk about our experience last night. It's about pausing to take in what the person said, number one.
But
And
that's
number
now
two,
the
giving,
solution, right?
yes,
That's the
yes,
solution
that's the
about.
solution.
Yeah.
So
We're gonna get. We're gonna get to the
So-
solution.
because you want to know what the difference was. So yeah, I listened carefully this time.
Yeah. And that's just it. Remember, the person in front of you, whoever it is that's triggering you, is helping you to become a better version of you. Because just think about this. How many times have you gone somewhere? And this is what used to happen in the past with VIS and I. Now, like that event, we went to the event, and there I just casually said to us, oh no, Anne said that's not a ricotta bake, it's a baked ricotta. Now, totally, just like that. Innocently having a conversation. And then this person now believes that you attacked them, right? In their own mind, the primitive brain, because some childhood conditioning came in about, oh, somebody's saying that I did something wrong. Then they carry it with them. Now, you, the person like me, who just said that, has no idea that this even happened, that this even affected the other person, because quite frankly, it was just communication. But the misunderstanding becomes bigger and bigger and bigger now. In the past, Vis would be carrying this like a sore point. He would be carrying this and not wanting to shift out of it.
Yeah.
Because what happened as well, he became a victim. He chose to be in victim mode rather than understanding, oh, this had nothing to do. And what you said at the beginning when we started this conversation is really important. It had nothing to do with you or me. It was just stating a fact of what was going on at that moment.
Yeah. So I could choose to go into turtle mode.
Yeah.
Or,
no, not a turtle, hailstorm. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but it's almost like withdrawing. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Withdrawing.
No, I could have chosen to do
Yes.
one of two things.
Yeah.
Like fight about it and become
Yes.
a hailstorm.
Or flee.
Or
flee, which is the turtle, like
Yeah.
you said. Yeah. So you would have either fought or withdrew. And I guess that's just it. Because it's like the misunderstanding by one side becomes something so much bigger, and the person holds onto it, and then you end up into like this big explosion, which you did not even expect because someone was carrying it all this while. And usually the person who reacts and doesn't immediately dissipate it, because this is another thing, right? It's like while it's happening, that awareness, when you are in this empowered relationship, you should be able to say, oops, I just caught myself doing something. I want to react rather than respond. That's where you want to be. Where the other, when you're getting triggered, you're able to stop the person and say, just now, do you know what just happened right now? Because it becomes like quite a playful game. That's the journey of empowerment, where you can stop the other person and say, do you know what's happening right now? I actually felt like you were judging me. Right? I felt you were judging me and you were correcting me. And it's like, oh my goodness, all these people heard that I was being corrected, right? I'm sure all those things were happening in your head.
Well, not really. It was just you and I. So,
but think about it. Go behind it.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Your mind can wander to that degree.
Yeah.
But I guess I just left it there, although I reacted. But I left it there. It's like, okay, I'm not going to make this bigger than it is, you know. So yeah.
So do you think that you, by reacting and just leaving it there, you actually dissipated the energy? No, you didn't. Because remember, if you but that's exactly it. When you react, you have to go back to visit it and be able to neutralize. Because remember, the minute you react, you actually went into freeze mode, or as we said, fight, flight, or freeze, right? Because that's another thing that happens. The modern thing that got attached to it is when we were little, we didn't fight our parents or the authority or run away, because you'd get more hiding
couldn't
if
run
you
away.
couldn't run away. So what did we do? We just stood in front of
Yes.
our parents and we froze, right? And what's happening every time we're doing that is we literally shutting down all our creativity. We're just shutting out everything about us, and we just like seal up. And then we wonder why the things aren't working in our life, even when we're trying to do something.
So possibly I went into freeze mode. And
Exactly.
yesterday I actually addressed it and said, oops, I actually reacted like, but
Yeah.
I could just respond to Mona because
Yes.
there's nothing to it.
Now think about it. This occurred on Saturday. What day is it today? It's Thursday. It has taken, and this is how it does work. Unless you're willing to see the other person as a mirror for you and of you, we can stay in that victim mode. And remember, we may think we're not doing anything about it, but we did react. And the reaction was like, oops, I'm being attacked. Let me go into freeze mode. So even not saying anything actually causes more harm than saying, you know what, this is how I felt when you said that. How many people do that openly?
Yeah.
You don't do that openly yet.
I'm getting better.
You're getting better at
getting
it.
better,
Yeah. This is getting better. And if it was me, I would have said, by the way, do you know when you did that? This is how I felt. Right? For me, it's got to come out as fast as it went in. It's got to come out as fast, because that's just it. The quicker it comes out, it means I'm back in my executive brain. And I want to be in my executive brain with whatever it is I'm doing.
Very true.
So I hope it was clear enough through our sharing what happens when we react, or how we react, and what is the better way. And what did you say the solution was?
Is to stop, press the pause button, think
Yes.
about it. Think about what's being said, and it gives you time to switch from that amygdala
Back into the
back into executive brain. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's not really a big issue. It's just that's the right terminology.
Yeah.
So,
and think about it. Isn't it also that we have, isn't that so beautiful? The quote by Wayne Dyer: if somebody else reacts badly to you, it's their karma. But how you choose to react is your karma. And that was where this discussion is coming from. You see, people can do whatever they want to around us. What we choose to do with it, whether we choose to react or respond, is up to us, because that's what choice and free will is all about.
And you always talk about responding with love.
Exactly. Right? So even with the world situation right now, there's so many armchair critics. Okay, that's not coming from a place of love. If you want to really know what we're doing when we do that, we're actually contributing. We're contributing to the madness rather than being part of the solution. So what I do when I see things like that happening in the world, I just send love. I send love. I do the forgiveness exercises. I'm doing the forgiveness exercise, and it's simple. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. I forgive you. You may be wondering, why are you saying sorry for anything? Because I've contributed in some way to what's happening in the world. I've contributed to it. And when you understand it at that level, you realize that everything that's happening around us, we can dissipate it. So I send love, and I'm doing the forgiveness exercise. And this is the Hawaiian forgiveness technique, the Ho'oponopono technique. And if we can just do that every day, just to whatever negativity is happening in the world, we just give love to it. That's the way. That's the way of the sacred feminine.
You just want to share that again?
There's 5 sentences. There's actually there's different ways to do it, but it doesn't matter what order you do it. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Now, some people say, I forgive you. But what is even more powerful as the 5th sentence is, I forgive myself. I forgive myself for having to, have this experience. For me, those are the 5 powerful sentences. And you'll see it. If you go online, you'll find so much of material on it as well. The whole Ponopono, and his doctor, uh, I forget his name right
his
now.
face.
Liu, yeah, I can see his face. But Joe Vitale brought that into the Western world. But there was a doctor in Hawaii who used this with, patients that he was seeing in the prison, were really, really, really like,
Phenomenal benefits here.
yeah, but really, I'm putting this in inverted commas, like bad criminals, because there's no good or bad criminals, but like committing really bad crimes. And he used this because he was so triggered by the crimes that they committed, and he had to be there to like sort of serve them. And he was really challenged. And how him just doing the process on himself helped the criminal, those that were imprisoned for serious crimes, change who they were and how they came about and how they transformed their lives. So this is a really powerful exercise.
Yeah. So just to recap then, people wanting to know, how do they manage this reaction versus response?
Yeah.
So if we just take them through some of the points we made today. One is pause.
Yes.
And just think about what's being said and listen to what's being said, as opposed to what you think is being said, and allow for that executive brain to kick in to respond. That would be one step, right? And the second one I said was, when you start becoming aware, like I became aware of what I did on Saturday, and I filed that into a different file in my executive center saying, if and when Mona says this is what she means. And then you learn to read that very differently and respond, as opposed to quickly reacting as if you're being attacked.
Yeah.
What would be other ways to do it?
Well, like you said, pausing, because remember, in the heat of the moment, there's a reaction. So like Bess said, what's one of the ways? Use some kind of like an anchor. Use some kind of physical anchor, whether you touch your thumb, whether you hold you press onto your leg, whether you hold your hand or you press onto your hand, but use something that when you're getting triggered, you bring yourself back to neutral. Because remember, to jump from the primitive brain to the executive brain is a jump. So you want to get to neutral first, and then you say, that's why the pause. The pause brings you to stop. Then you get to neutral. Then you get into the executive brain because you're reframing exactly like you said.
Yeah. And another way to do it, an alternative pause is counting to 5.
Yes.
Is a method of counting to 5.
Yeah.
So it almost gives you time to make that switch. Remembering to count to 5 as opposed to pressing the pause button.
Yeah.
It's easier for you than do that.
Exactly.
Do it that way. Yeah. And I think the last thing that I would want to share is that whenever something is said, it's never about them or about you.
Yes.
It's always about the activity or the incident or the object. It's never about you. So, don't take it personally. And especially when you're responding, it's about when you said this or when you did this. This is how it made me feel. Really helps in not creating more friction in an environment that may seem already, quite tense.
Yeah, because that's what usually happens when people react. And I guess, ending off for today's session about the recent, the birthday party that we went to on the weekend of our dear friend who comes from Serbia, and she's been here for many, many years. And the best part was that we met her like 15 or 16 years ago, all the way in from South Africa. They were living here in South Africa, and then we got connected when we all went to Argentina, and we've been friends since then. I mean, that was such a beautiful birthday celebration. What did you love about that? And I guess, except for 3 of us, the rest of the people around the table were all foreigners that have come to live in South Africa. And what did they say to us? What was the common thing? What do they say that they love about South Africa? the warmth of our people.
Yeah. So that
I was just
yeah,
helping this along there.
I was going to say warm people. I was going to say there were two things.
No, it was the most important they said.
Yeah. So there was one observation and one comment. So the fact that yes, South African people are warm, and I think looking back to their backgrounds,
yes,
you know, of war and no matter what qualification they had,
yes,
you know, they were really seen as a lower class of people, given jobs at that lower level, and yet they've come with that work culture like the South Africans have of wanting to really use your skills and build the country. And we've seen that in them as well. If you look at how industrious all the people we met are, they're either professionals.
They all are professionals, because that's just it.
Yeah.
The people who have come here, like Bus was saying, and the one lady said across the table, if she was still in Europe with her degrees, you know, with all her degrees, she'll be a teller somewhere. Because, why? Because of her Balkan surname. Now you tell me, you tell me, if we are talking about peace in the world, can that still exist today?
It's crazy.
And this is what this person said. And in South Africa, when they all came here, and remember, they're from Europe. So in South Africa, they're all white, right? They're not seen as Balkan, this or that or whatever, but they were welcomed with open arms. I mean, the one person's husband, Lily's husband, he's a doctor. And he works in like the townships. He works in the townships in South Africa.
You speak more black languages than we do.
Wait. We do not speak any black languages, not even more than. We do not, right? But he does, and he came from Serbia. The other lady shared with me about her brother coming, and she's a dentist, and she gets to practice as a dentist here. She said that her brother came to South Africa, he went to Chatsworth. He worked in Chatsworth, where we came from. And he's now in Dubai. He went to Doha and he went to, that's in Qatar, he went to Dubai. He said what he misses the most is the warmth of the South African people. So it doesn't matter which township, you know, because the townships were the different areas we were allocated to in the apartheid time. It doesn't matter whether you went to the Indian township or the black township or the colored township. Yes, for those of you foreigners, colored is a non-swearing word in South Africa. People are so welcoming. And do you know how good that made us feel?
Yeah.
That our country, this is how foreigners feel. And the other person came from Mozambique, and she was born in Mozambique, a Portuguese Mozambican. And she said, I'm African. And when you look at her, she's this little white woman, and her husband came from Switzerland.
And he's tried to go back to Switzerland twice
and he came back
and said, no,
nope.
He misses the warmth and the multicultural society we have. And you know, beautiful people like that are warm, see the warmth in others. And that's what makes us such a warm nation, this melting pot of so many nationalities that makes us such a warm, welcoming nation.
And that was so beautiful. You know, and this is it. Who are you spending time with? You know, this weekend, it didn't matter whether it was on the Saturday or it was the Sunday. We were around people who were telling us how beautiful our country is, who were telling us how pioneering or sharing with us the things that they were doing, not looking at all the things that are wrong in our country or in the world, but reminding us how beautiful, how blessed, how grateful they are for having whatever opportunity that they have and being able to share that. And even the chef, I mean, the food that we ate, you know, that chef's been here. I'm serious here. Go check VIS's post on La Madeleine. For 260 Rand, I know we're going a bit over today, but who cares, right? For 260 Rand to get a 3-course meal, and I'm talking about really good quality food. You can't get that anywhere in the world. I don't even know what's it in dollars. It's less than $20.
Less than $20.
It's probably around $15, maybe a little bit, $18 or whatever. For a 3-course meal, and you could have fish, you could have lamb, you could have what was it? Pork.
Yeah.
You could have short rib. Now, come on, right?
Yeah, our country is definitely value for money.
Yes,
Yeah?
and just by the
but
way,
it's a
as
chef that
well,
wants to make
he
this
came.
available.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this chef came from Belgium,
Belgium.
and he also studied in Belgium and Switzerland.
And his restaurant's going 38 years.
Exactly.
In
He
South
came
Africa.
in South Africa, and he came to South Africa in 1976. He was 24 years old, right? And he's still running his business, even though things were challenged in the last 2 years. And for 260 Rand, where would you ever get a meal? So please go there, La Madeleine in Pretoria. Just go there for Sunday lunch. It is fabulous. Make sure you book, please, because it was
Just
packed.
full. Yeah, let's get
Right?
full.
It was packed. On Sundays, they take 60 people, and it was packed. So, yeah, I guess this is what we want to share with people.
Yeah.
The world is beautiful. There may be one or two people trying to still do things that irritate and upset everybody, but don't go fall for that, because you're actually giving them more power. You're giving them more power. Rather go look at what's working, and you power that. You give fuel to that and energy and attention to that, and watch what's going to happen to those other things that's going on there.
So before we go, I think there's a comment from Celindile.
Yes.
joined us. Hi,
Hello,
Celindile.
gorgeous. We haven't seen you in
Yeah.
ages.
She said one of the most significant topics you're talking about, currently working on it and growing. Definitely, it brings more peace and stillness in every situation.
Oh, absolutely. You say that so beautifully, Slindile.
Even if we touch one life
Yeah.
by sharing or making people realize that they're on the right track,
Yeah.
that's what we're all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And Slindile, you know how beautiful our country is, right? Because this is it. We can scream it on the tops of mountains, and yes, we've been to the tops of mountains, so yes, and we have screamed it from there as well, because this is just it, right? Everyone, many people are reacting to what's going on in the world right now. Stop, pause, slow down. Let's bring some light into that space.
And respond with love.
Right? Yeah. Send love. Just send words of love. Send empowerment. And like Slendile says, it brings peace. Because that's what we want in the world. We want peace. First, the peace starts in our relationships. You want to see peace in the world? Start it in our relationship. It doesn't matter who it is. You are in relationship with your parents, your siblings, your neighbors, your children, your co-workers. It starts in the relationships. Let's have peace in our relationship. And then watch what's going to start happening in the world. Because there's nobody to fight with after that. Right?
So we've kept you long enough.
Yeah.
Been a fun afternoon, evening in South Africa.
Evening for us, yeah.
So I think we'll end there today.
Yeah.
Until we see you next week.
Next week. So until then,
have a lovely weekend.
And ciao for now.
Bye.